The story of Nehemiah is found in the Old Testament in the book of Nehemiah. It is a powerful account of leadership, faith, and restoration. Here's a summary of the story. Background. The story takes place in the 5th century BCE after the Babylonian exile. Many Jews had returned to Jerusalem, but the city remained in ruins, especially the walls, leaving it vulnerable to attack. Nehemiahs Role. Nehemiah was a Jewish man serving as cupbearer to King Artaxerxes of Persia, a trusted and high-ranking position. When he heard that Jerusalem's walls were broken down and its gates burned, he was deeply troubled. Key events in Nehemiah's story. 1. Nehemiah's prayer and permission. Nehemiah 1-2. Nehemiah prayed to God with fasting, confessing the sins of Israel and asking for favor. Then he asked the king for permission to go to Jerusalem to rebuild the walls. The king not only granted permission but also gave Nehemiah letters for safe passage and supplies. 2. Rebuilding the walls. Nehemiah 3-6. Nehemiah returned to Jerusalem and rallied the people to rebuild the walls. He assigned families and groups to work on different sections. They faced strong opposition from surrounding enemies like Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, who mocked and threatened them. Nehemiah responded with prayer, strategy, such as arming the workers, and steadfast leadership. Despite threats and attempts to distract or harm him, the wall was completed in just 52 days. Spiritual renewal. Nehemiah 7:10. Once the wall was rebuilt, Nehemiah focused on spiritual renewal. The people gathered to hear Ezra the priest read the law of Moses, and they repented for their sins. They celebrated the Feast of Tabernacles, confessed their history of disobedience, and made a covenant to obey God. 4. Further reforms. Nehemiah 11-13. Nehemiah helped organize the repopulation of Jerusalem, re-established temple worship, and instituted reforms. When he returned to the king for a time and later came back to Jerusalem, he found that some of the reforms had been neglected. He confronted sin boldly, including misuse of the temple, neglect of the Sabbath, and intermarriage with foreign women who led people away from God. Themes and lessons. Leadership. Nehemiah shows what it means to lead with vision, courage, and dependence on God. Prayer. His story is marked by constant prayer in all situations. Perseverance. He stayed focused on God's mission despite intense opposition. Repentance and renewal. The rebuilding of the walls symbolized the spiritual restoration of the people. Obedience. Nehemiah called the people back to faithfulness to God's covenant. Nehemiah's story is an inspiring example of what God can do through one person who is committed to his purposes.